You don't have a time problem, and I'm going to prove it to you. Because if I grabbed your phone right now and I pulled up your entire week screen, it wouldn't show a shortage of hours. It would show that you've been willing to tolerate. Now look, I get it. There are times in life where objectivity starts crushing you. You have a new baby, job transitions, a crisis, someone's sick. I'm not talking about those times. I'm talking about the default state most of us live in, where we feel busy all the time, but still falling behind. Busy doesn't equal effective. And today, I'm going to break down exactly why that is. This isn't about working harder, it's about what you're letting in. Here's what's actually happening. When you don't have a clear standard, everything gets access to your time. When everything gets in, everything starts competing for your attention. When everything starts competing, you just react. And reaction feels like effort. But effort without direction isn't progress. So you end up your day exhausted and nothing meaningful moves forward. That gap between how hard you worked and how little you'll advance, that's what makes you feel like your entire world is falling behind. And it's not that you don't have time. It's that you haven't protected what matters. The numbers don't lie. Let me get specific. The average person spends over 2 hours a day on social media. That's 14 hours a week. 728 hours a year. That's roughly 30 full days of your life just scrolling. 30 days. Time isn't disappearing, it's leaking. Your standard plug leaks. And without standards, everything feels urgent. With standards, you can filter what's truly urgent from what's just loud. In Atomic Habits, James Clear writes, every action you take, it's a vote for the type of person that you want to become. Every single action. So when you skip your workout, there goes a vote. When you avoid the hard conversations, that's a vote. When you choose scrolling over being present, that's another vote. You don't get to rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. And standards change based on how you feel. Your identity becomes unstable, and unstable identities feels like chaos. So pause for a second. Where are your standards sleeping right now? Training? Marriage? Health? Leadership? Don't judge it. I just want you to see it. There was a time early in my career where I felt like I was losing control. I was running 24-hour shifts, 3 times a week. Calls stacked. I wasn't getting sleep. Had tons of paperwork to do. I was going to school full time. Things were piling up. But I kept telling myself, I just don't have time. One night I came home after a shift, completely exhausted, and my family tried to talk to me about something small. I don't even remember what it was. And I snapped. Not yelling, not cruel, just impatient. Checked out. Short. I watched their face shut down. And that moment kind of hit me hard. Because it wasn't that I didn't have time. It was that I had let exhaustion set a standard for how I showed up. Convenience replaced discipline. Fatigue replaced leadership. That wasn't a time problem. That was erosion. And erosion is quiet. You don't feel it daily. You feel it when something breaks. That moment forced me to confront something uncomfortable. I was solid at work, but drifting at home. Same 24 hours, different standards. That's when I decided what survives in my schedule, no matter what. Training 4 days a week. Protect one evening at home with the family. Or put the phone down after a certain time. It's not perfect, but it's protected. When those standards became non-negotiable, my schedule reorganized around them. Not magically, but consistently. Here's something I think about often. I call it the standard gap. The standard gap is the distance between who you say you are and what your daily behavior proves. So let's say you value strength, but you skip training when tired. You say you value leadership, but you avoid those conversations. You say you value family, but your phone always wins. That gap creates tension. That tension feels like stress. But it's not time pressure, it's misalignment. High performers close that gap quickly, not dramatically quiet. They decide, this is who I am. And they stop negotiating with themselves. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey explains that most people live in urgency, reacting, responding, or putting out fires. But effectiveness doesn't come from chasing urgency. It comes from protecting what's important, even when it's not screaming. If your calendar doesn't reflect your values, your standards aren't real yet. And if your standards aren't real, urgency will always win. You don't need more hours. You need clearer lines. When standards are fixed, your schedule rearranges around it. So let me push on this. If you say you don't have time, but you burn 2 hours a day on junk input, that's not scarcity, you're leaking. If your body's getting weaker but training isn't protected, that's not time. That's negotiable standard. If your marriage feels distant but you haven't carved out protective space, that's not time, that's structure. This isn't about doing more, it's about tolerating less. So what do? I want you to define 3 standards, not goals, standards. Here's what mine look like. I train 4 days a week. I protect at least one evening or one day with my family. I read 10 pages a day. Yours will look totally different, but they must be small, clear, and non-negotiable. Standards reduce decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is what makes you feel like you don't have time. You don't need more hours. You need sharper lines. You don't need productivity hacks. You need fewer tolerated leaks. Time is fixed. Standards are chosen. And when you raise them, your life compresses around what matters. Be all in, but not busy, not reactive, not scatter. Be all in on purpose.